take calculated risks. You have to take into account everything that's going on. Does the current opportunity offer the chance to leave my current position? How stable is the economy to support a career change? So it's important to not lose sight of the end goal, but you have to be realistic along the way.
Welcome, everyone, to the Road Less Traveled Show. This is a show about people that were successful in a previous career and left that career to go down a different path. I'm your co-host, Richard Coyne. And my co-host, Bill Zahller, is actually on assignment today, so it's just going to be myself today. So on today's show, we're so pleased to welcome Morgan Henry. Morgan, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. Certainly appreciate you being here. So we'll kind of run through the discussion and just see where it goes. So certainly appreciate you taking some time. So first, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? You've done some different things from looking at your background. Just maybe go into what you used to do and kind of what you do now, that type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Oops, sorry about my dog just there. So my name's Morgan. I'm based here in Dallas, Texas. I graduated college back in 2017, so my about me is still a little short. But the journey that I have had has led me down a multitude of paths that in turn have helped me discover who I am. When I graduated college, which 5 years feels like forever now, but I realized it wasn't that long ago. I ended up with a degree that I didn't want to use, and I also didn't know what I wanted to do. So I bounced around a lot from job to job, just trying everything out. Like, what do I like? What do I not like? And like you mentioned earlier, I did a lot. I mean, I tried personal training, pet sitting because I love animals, administrative assistant, surveying. I even went to bartending school, and that was a total fail. And everything was just really unfulfilling. But from the surveying job, I was offered a position in construction management as an inspector. And that was the first time that I was truly happy doing what I was doing. So I've been in construction management since 2019. And then in 2021, I started in real estate doing multifamily syndication. And now I'm starting to dive into short-term rental properties.
Very cool. Very cool. Nice. So if I can dig in a little further on the construction management side, what type of construction are you involved with?
So I work at a civil engineering firm. It's going to be slightly different than what a lot of real estate people are familiar with. This is roadway construction. So, when you're driving down the highway and you see those people out there working, odds are there's going to be an inspector out there. And basically, I'm liaison between contractor and engineer and the project manager. Just ensuring that everything is being built safely and per plans. So I'm the field eyes, you could say, for the manager and engineer.
Okay, got it. So being Dallas based, that means you're kind of building in Texas generally, or do you wind up traveling?
Yeah, we're focused in Texas.
Got it. Okay.
Actually, which covers a lot of ground.
Yeah. Texas is a big state. Yeah. So actually, my dad was a civil engineer. He designed bridges.
My dad was an engineer too.
Yeah. Okay.
Runs in the blood.
Cool. Yeah. Nice. All right. Good. Well, then, so if you would maybe elaborate a little bit more about where you're going with your again, you're still working, I guess, right?
Yes.
In the civil engineering field. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So you're doing the real estate on the side. You mentioned multifamily, and then you also mentioned, what was it?
Short-term rentals.
Oh, okay. Okay. Like an Airbnb type. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about that, about both aspects of, kind of where you're involved in?
Yeah. So I think it's interesting that I originally started in syndication because most people start from either single family rentals, or they were realtor selling and they wanted to switch sides. The first investing I learned about was other people's money. And so when you start researching that kind of stuff, syndication was one of the first things I learned about. And I don't have a real estate background, so I had no idea. I just kind of picked it up and went with it. And then after I learned about syndication, I wanted to get out of this rut of staying in syndication, because I know that there's different avenues that you can take to be involved in real estate. And so I had an interest in short-term rentals for the fact that I had been reading that there can be more cash flow involved, especially in certain markets, like tourist markets. And so that's important to me, because I want to eventually be full-time in real estate. But in order to do that, I have to replace my current income. And to do that, I need cash flow. So to focus on that a little bit more, to increase my current income so I can eventually do that transition, and then I can focus on real estate more full-time.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's, in a way similar for me. I syndicate, but I don't have a real estate background other than the fact that I bought real estate before. I'm not a licensed broker. And in fact, actually a lot of the reading I was doing and kind of figuring out where I wanted to go in terms of real estate world, there's some school of thought that says, don't go get your license. Some people say, yeah, go get your license, save yourself with the commissions. But, at the same point in time, you have to disclose you're a broker if you do have your license. And that may or may not be a good thing. I'm not saying it's one way or the other. But yeah, for me, I bought a single family house, my wife and I, as an investment property. And then we kind of, literally, I tell the story, literally 2 weeks after we had under contract, I did the math and I'm like, wait a minute, $100 a month passive income. Oh my Lord, that's a lot of houses to replace my income. So then I'm like, okay, I got to go bigger. So that's why I jumped and shifted and pivoted over to multifamily. So, but the short-term rental thing is very interesting. Are you taking the approach of buying a property and then letting it out or renting it out on a short term, like an Airbnb? Is that your approach?
Okay. Yeah. So I already have my market picked out. It's Broken Bow, Oklahoma / Hochatown, which I used to live in Oklahoma. I ran away for college. So familiar with the area, very touristy. So to pick the correct market that has a demand for short-term rentals, especially year-round, is important.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of people, wind up finding great places, but I think your point is right. The ability to attract attention year-round is fantastic. I mean, I've got some designs on some places that, is it like maybe another side project or somewhere down the road, but I don't know that it's got the year-round demand. I mean, again, is it literally where you're talking about? I mean, could you literally rent it, more than 40 weeks out of the year?
Yeah. It's in a state park.
Okay.
So you have lakes, mountains, hiking, fishing. There's a casino not very far. Okay. So there's definitely some year-round attractions, and it's very family oriented. So you could really just, pack up the kids for a weekend and run away. And from Texas, it's only 2.5 hours. Not far at all.
Okay, nice. All right. Well, sounds like a good plan. Very cool. I talked to somebody who was doing, I think he called it like a short-term rental arbitrage, where he was literally signing. You've heard of that strategy, right?
Yeah.
And if anybody hasn't heard of it, it's the idea that you sign a lease on a house or whatever, and you disclose it to the landlord that what you're doing, but your intent is to, have a steady stream of paying the lease, but then at the same point in time, you Airbnb it out and you drive more revenue out of that property for doing so. Again, I know a tiny bit about it, so I don't know a lot about the, where you have to watch your analysis to make sure you're on the right side of the financials there. But anyway, so very cool. Well, good for you. So Morgan, as you think back, maybe, I don't know, again, your personal training days, maybe your dog walking days, somewhere in there, or pet sitting days, is there a humorous story that you encountered along the way, something that made you scratch your head and say, I got to do something different?
Back in the day, right when I graduated college, my mentality was, just keep income coming in. Like if you don't like something, okay, but don't quit and not have income. So that was my mindset back then, and just trying things that I liked. I mean, because I'm very into health and fitness. So I thought, well, maybe
Hmm.
personal training, I would like that. No,
Hmm.
didn't like it whatsoever. um, Pet sitting, there just wasn't a lot of money in
Hmm.
it. So on to the next. But for my inspection job, this isn't necessarily a funny story, but more of an aha moment.
Hmm.
When I first started in real estate on the side, I kept to myself because I didn't want my employer or a field supervisor to find out, because I didn't want to create any friction and
Hmm.
potentially lose my job. Uh, I didn't want them to think that I wasn't taking my job seriously, which I
Right.
absolutely do. But as I got more active, they obviously found out. But instead of that fear of them being upset, they were actually really proud to hear that I
Very
was
cool.
doing something in real estate, because come to find out, they do it too. Not
Oh,
necessarily
nice.
the syndication aspect of it, but more like single family rentals, short term, vacation rentals, and stuff like that. So I had created this fictional fear that I was
Hmm.
doing something I shouldn't be doing, when in reality it was fine the entire time. And and since then I've been able to have so many conversations about real estate with coworkers, engineers, PMs, and whatnot. And it's fine, because I found that there's something older people love about living vicariously through younger people.
Hmm.
So it just makes for fun conversations along the way.
That's awesome. That's very cool. I don't remember who said it. I want to say it was Mark Twain, but I don't know if it was him. But anyway, the quote is something like, I've had, in my head, a million things have gone wrong, and most of which have never actually really happened. They're just, your mind has such power to create fear that it really, most of the time, it isn't any issue. And again, you know, I mean, I literally actually, when I was, you know, starting in the real estate as a side thing for myself, I checked my employment documents and I said, okay, wait a minute. Okay. Oh, I can do side gigs, hustles, whatever you want to call it, as long as it doesn't directly compete with my current job. I was like,
Mhm.
okay, well, yeah, I'm not doing anything that's going to directly compete with my current job because it's a totally different field. And I think that's probably the case with most employment situations. Again, you're working a job 40 hours a week. Well, guess what? There's 168 hours in the week. And yeah, you'll take time out for sleep and eat and all that. But at the same point in time, people who are motivated are going to kind of want to find something to do. And again, I'll take that. And again, it's very impressive that at your young age, you're already on this path. So kudos to you. Um,
Thank you.
because again, you work a job to pay the bills, and you enjoy what you do, and you dedicate to your company and all that good stuff. But at the same point in time, you got a lot of free time. So what do you do
Yeah.
with that free time? At the same point in time, the other aspect of it is that people hopefully will take this as a great measure to say, listen, I got to think down the road for my future. you know
Mhm.
it's I think it's Cardone talks about, you're either working to fulfill somebody else's dreams, or you're working to make, you're either working to fill your own dreams, or you're working to meet somebody else's. And
Yep.
if when you're an
Yeah.
employee, you're paying somebody else's, living, and somebody else's, to help grow their wealth. At the same point in time, when you do something for yourself, it could be real estate, it could be, maybe something you're passionate about. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's something to do with digital marketing, photography, something like that. When you're working on something on the side, that's where you kind of start trying to take a little more control of where you're going and actually build wealth for yourself. So good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So, what was the deciding factor to kind of start really trying to do something in the real estate? Was it just something that, as you were working in the construction inspection side, you kind of like, I really like this. Let me see where else I can do this, or did you have some sort of exposure to real estate? You said you weren't a licensed agent, but what kind of led you to think that you wanted to move in that direction?
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to get involved in real estate was because I didn't want to rely on one source of income.
Mm-hmm.
I've known a few people now who thought they were either on top of the world or they were really excited about their future. And then all of a sudden it came crashing down.
Mm-hmm.
And it just goes to show that you can't rely on someone else to create your future. You
Mm-hmm.
have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The other reason is I had some free time in between my job, and I don't really watch TV. I have very few shows that I keep up with. And so I was just looking for something else. And, one Google search led to another. And then all of a sudden you have these algorithms popping up.
Yeah.
And then it's just like a whole rabbit hole that you fall into. And then that's how I decided to get involved in real estate.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, it's amazing kind of the path that people take. And again, good for you that you figured out that you do have some other time that you can do something else with. So why not do something to help you build wealth ultimately down the road? So good for you. So as Morgan, as you were thinking, as you were kind of started working on these other things, these other real estate things on the side, you mentioned that you were obviously, cautious about your employer, just from the standpoint you were afraid that they were going to have an objection to it, and they wound up being very proud of you. That's very cool. But were there some other obstacles you encountered along the way? Did you kind of try doing some of this?
Yeah. So I want to cover two obstacles that I encountered. One in regards to my inspection job, and the other about real estate. The obstacle that I faced with my full-time job was finding something I truly enjoyed. As I mentioned earlier, I bounced around from job to job, trying to find something I enjoyed. And during that 2-year period, I remember being really unhappy, and I didn't understand why I was struggling so much. But looking back, I'm actually really happy that I did try all of those jobs, because I learned a lot about myself during that time. So I feel like it's really important to have a career that makes you want to get out of bed in the morning. So whatever that may be, it could be digital marketing, civil engineering, being a doctor, whatever it is, just make sure that it's something that you can enjoy. And then an obstacle that I faced in real estate, which a lot of other people face too, was the market that we had been in. I kind of went into real estate thinking, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake. No, it was the complete opposite. With the expansion that we've been having and just the fierce competition was insane. So building my confidence and was a challenge. But I was able to work around that by partnering with more experienced people. And now fast forward almost 2 years, which again, that's absolutely insane. I can't believe I've already been here for 2 years. I've gained valuable lessons, and my confidence is now through the roof. We have closed on deals. I can asset manage. I now know that I can do this. So moving forward, it's just really exciting to me that I can be able to do this now.
Very cool. Yeah. Again, there's a lot to be said for, trying different things along the way and finding out what you don't like as well as what you do like. And again, like you said, you learned some valuable lessons about yourself in that time period. So, good for you. That's, there's some people that we've had other people on the show, and some of the stories that you hear, like one person talked about an attorney friend of theirs that learned they hated being an attorney. Like, wait a minute, you already went to law school and you now realize you don't like it. Ooh, that's tough time to anyway. But yeah, at least again, to experience different things, try different things. So that's what it's all about. And then you'll find something you like. Yeah.
Yeah. You owe it to yourself to just try it out, because you're not going to know if you don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you might as well try.
Yeah. And again, if you bring value to somebody else by offering to help them in some capacity, you can earn a ton by doing that. And it sounds like in a way that's somehow you were able to parlay with some people that had more experience, and you were able to offer them some value, and therefore they brought you on board as someone to be with them, and that wound up paying off greatly. So speaking of, can you talk about maybe one of your first victories as you were working on one of your side projects, one of the real estate projects?
Yeah. So for me, there's just so many victories, and the reason I say that is because I've conditioned myself to celebrate the small wins in life. I mean, obviously, it's great when we achieve a big goal of ours, but it's also important to be able to break it down and to have those small wins. It keeps us excited and wanting to move forward. So when I think back, it's like my first successful lunch with a broker, or my first property tour, my first LOI, all of those things helped me get to where I am today, whether I made mistakes or I nailed it on the first try. But I'd say my biggest victory to date would be my current business relationship with my sponsor. To find someone who has allowed me to get my hands dirty has been instrumental in my growth. And for that, I'm forever grateful. Like I mentioned earlier, the confidence that I've been able to gain in 10 months is absolutely crazy. And it all came from simply doing the work.
Very nice. Yeah. Again, you learn from books, but at the same point in time, you're going to learn so much more by doing, actually putting the book knowledge into practice. And, that's awesome. So, all right, Morgan. So in your real estate world now, you mentioned syndication. Now you're going after short-term rental type things. Is there something that you've experienced along the way that's been pretty funny that you just have to look back and laugh at something happened to you?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a funny story. But back in 2021, I went to my first big conference here in Dallas. And I was talking with this young man about the markets we like and what we were investing in. And he started talking about this one property, and it started to sound vaguely familiar. And I was like, wait a minute, is that this property? And he was like, yeah, we just got the deal. And when I tell you, I just about screamed, that was you. Like, what? I mean, because this guy's out of California. It's like, what are the odds that we would end up in this room?
Yeah.
And then, because I had worked really hard for that property, like getting everything together. And I was like, yeah. And I had talked to the broker the previous week. And he's like, yeah, well, there's this other group that's just kind of submitted everything. I was like, oh, okay, got to move quick. And then, whoop, it got whipped out from under my feet. So, I mean, it just goes to show how small this world really can be once you start networking. But in the end, we had a pretty good laugh about it because we had just been talking the entire time.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I actually we've had the same thing happen to us, and actually more than one occasion. One very early on when we were trying to get our traction and things like that. I looked at a very small property that was in a particular college town near us. And, I knew of that property being for sale. And the funny part about it was actually my daughter had lived there when she was in college in this small little, it was probably a 14 unit or something like that. And then we wound up having one of our 2 monthly meetings that we host. And this couple was there talking about this property they just bought in this particular college town. I'm like, such and such compared notes. I'm like, oh my God, you guys bought that property. that exact property. And then the other one was very similar, was a much larger property, 100 units, 150 units. I can't remember what the size was, but it was in a particular town. And we were engaging in some new marketing efforts. And we came across an example that somebody showed us as a, hey, here's a, successful, example. Maybe you can take a few notes out of this. Well, it turned out, as I looked at that name, I'm like, wait a minute. We had bid on that particular property and lost that deal to these guys that I saw as being put up as an example of a success story. So I'm like, it is a small world. Yeah. So Morgan, where are you today, and where do you see yourself taking this?
So I'm currently more focused on acquisitions, especially as we start to see the market turn more. So just continuing to build those relationships with brokers, lenders, visiting properties, and all that jazz to make sure that our team is ready for every opportunity that's around the corner.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good for you. Yeah, exactly. The market is weird these days, and priming and getting ready to see some opportunities, I think, is what we're going to wind up seeing. Just depends upon the timing of that. And hopefully, again, obviously, don't wish anybody ill, but definitely think the prices have to change, and it's things have gotten a little out of control, especially with the interest rates. So yeah. So Morgan, is there anything you can share that you do personally, or maybe through your company, that you can talk about that you do to give back to others?
Yeah. So we all know that one person who loves answering questions, like no matter how small or inconvenient. That's me. I like to give back by educating people as best I can. So I love answering your questions, or even if I don't know, I like to try and point you in the right direction. So for me, being able to provide any kind of resource is my kind of giving back. Of course, one of my end goals is to be in a good financial position where I can give back to communities. I'm a big advocate of wildlife and saving animals, and then helping homeless people. Those communities have a special place in my heart, and in the future, I will be giving back to those communities.
Excellent. Very nice. So Morgan, is there something that you have recently implemented in your business to help you grow and kind of do more?
Yes, something that has helped me tremendously, which we actually touched a little bit on it earlier, is being able to provide value to others. Life is a two-way street. You give and you take. You cannot go through life or business expecting everyone to bend over backwards for you and then you not do the same. So we have to find that happy medium. And I believe that comes from finding a mutually beneficial relationship. You cannot forget that your time is valuable and you can't get it back. And you should only give it away when it can be beneficial all around. So you should always be asking yourself, what can I bring to the table? Because in my opinion, that's an extremely attractive quality in a business relationship. It shifts the focus from you to someone else. Now, the flip side of that is to make sure that that person doesn't take advantage of you. So you should always assess carefully before working with a group or another company. Yeah.
All right. Well said. Well said. So Morgan, what advice would you give somebody who's considering making a path change, or maybe as somebody that, try different things and still trying to find their path? What would you suggest?
Take calculated risks. And what I mean by that is you have to take into account everything that's going on in your life. A lot of us, like me, come from a W-2 life. So that means that we have to think about what kind of risks and roles that we can take on at that time. And we have to ask questions like, does the current opportunity offer the chance to leave my current position? Or how stable is the economy to support a career change? Like, what about benefits? Do I need healthcare, dental, etc.? What if you have a family? But would you be able to support your family if you take on this venture? So there's a lot of moving components that we may not think about. So, I mean, what may seem like a good opportunity may in reality not be what aligns with what you should do. So it's important to not lose sight of the end goal, but you have to be realistic along the way.
Yeah. Okay. Very nice. Very nice. Good. All right, Morgan. So what's the best way for somebody to reach out to hear more about what you're doing and what you're up to?
Yeah, so best way to reach me is either on LinkedIn or my email at morgan@cassinicapital.net, CISSINI.
Very nice. Okay, got it. We'll put that in the show notes so that you can so folks can reach out and say hello. So, well, good. Well, Morgan, really appreciate your time. Thanks for being on the show, the Road Less Traveled show today. So,
yeah, this was fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So it's our pleasure. And again, we'd also like to thank our listeners. Please continue to give us a 5-star rating so we can bring you more great content like our guest today, Morgan Henry. Thank you again, morgan. We'd also like to remind everybody that Park Capital Partners has a couple things going on. First, we have the Park Capital Partners Value Add Fund, which is a 506c fund that's open today to accredited investors. And we also created the Park Capital Partners Foundation, which is a 501c3 nonprofit that we created to give back. And the way that works very quickly is that first, Park Capital Partners funds the operations of that foundation. So all the money donated can go to do its best work, which is to help others. Second, we donate corporately. Third, we donate personally. And fourth, when investors invest with us, we make a donation to honor that investor to a charity of their choice. And we have a couple of nice ones on there, like One Tree Planted and ASPCA, and also the homelessness. I can't remember the full name of it, but it's something to end homelessness. So, something we definitely care about as well. And that's some of the additional ways we give back ourselves. So thank you, everybody, for joining our show. Thank you again, Morgan. And we want to remind everybody that the road less traveled may be calling you. We recommend that you listen and take action. Thanks for joining.